Chapter 21 Rewriting Life with a Twist. "What did you do, you little freak?" he demanded, advancing on Harry with his fist raised. Normally this would have caused Harry to drop and cower in fear, but now Harry just smirked and tightened his fist, watching in fascination as Vernon froze, unable to move. The spell was one he had read about in the Black Library. It would bind the victim, and the more they struggled the tighter the bindings got. It was based on Devil's Snare, interestingly enough. Harry took a step forward and, with flourish, dropped his fist down, causing Vernon to drop painfully to his knees. "Now, Uncle, let's not do anything we'll regret now," Harry said, his voice mockingly soft. "Freak, release me at once," Vernon ordered, his voice not as loud as it had once been and his face taking on a distinctly fearful look. Harry watched in glee as he struggled, knowing he was causing himself further pain. And although he didn't like torture, he was suddenly gaining an understanding for it. Sighing in mock sympathy, Harry took another step forward so that now he was only a foot away from Vernon before he spoke again. "I think it's time we established some new rules. Don't you agree?" "Stop it," Vernon said. "I asked you a question, Uncle," Harry said. "What is it you want, boy?" Vernon spat out eventually. "I want to be left alone," Harry said. "No cooking, no cleaning. You will pretend like I don't exist, and I will do the same for you and your family." "Fine," Vernon growled the word out. Stepping back, Harry released the spell. Vernon sank even further down before surging forward. Expecting this, Harry raised his hand and stupefied him before turning his eyes to his real audience. Petunia stood at the top of the stairs, white-faced and shaking, her hand covering her mouth in terror. "Like I said, I no longer exist," Harry said to his aunt, who quickly nodded her head. "I says he dead?" Petunia whispered. Harry rolled his eyes. "No, not this time. However, I do think it would be wise of you to explain how our arrangement works to both him and Dudley. It would be a shame if any unpleasant accidents happened because they forgot the new rules." Petunia nodded again, her beady eyes darting between Harry and Vernon's prone form. Yes, of course," she said, practically vibrating in her fear. Happy, Harry turned and made his way towards the kitchen to make himself something to eat before he stopped just shy of the door. "Oh, and Auntie, I will be receiving my letter today, you know the one. So don't expect me back until tonight." Harry's words made her pale even further, and for a moment he thought she would actually faint. Bemused, Harry continued on his way before he froze and practically ran back to the hallway. Grabbing Petunia by the arm, Harry looked into her eyes and placed a secrecy jinx. She would be unable to tell anybody what she now knew apart from whoever Harry wished. This way she would be unable to tell Dumbledore or anybody else if they ever came sniffing about for answers. It would even work against Legilimens. He would do the same to Vernon once he woke up. Happy with what he had accomplished in just a few short minutes, Harry returned to his previous task and went about cooking his breakfast. Just as he was about to plate up, Dudley came running into the kitchen. Seeing Harry, he turned and made his way towards him. Sighing, as it was clear Petunia hadn't had a chance to talk to her oversized son, Harry wondered for a fleeting second if he could get away with just killing them. Harry didn't really condone casual murder, but when he thought about everything his family had done to him, every beating and nights left starving, he really considered just ending them now. Harry couldn't believe how passive the potions had made him, how they had made him ignore the beatings and be forgiving about the abuse. "Stop," Harry said, the chilling tone making Dudley do just that, almost comically freezing. However, like his father, Dudley would never be considered smart. After a second, he narrowed his eyes and took a step forward. The look on his face, Harry decided, was supposed to be menacing, but looked vaguely like he was constipated. Turning back to the stove, Harry turned off the hob before turning back to Dudley. It was clear the boy was confused by Harry's actions and was wavering on what to do. Luckily for him, he picked the smarter option. "Mom," he wailed, smirking when he thought about the trouble Harry would be in. Petunia appeared like a bat out of hell, almost panting in her effort to get to her son. Harry watched in amusement as she looked between them and grabbed Dudley. "What is it, Diddums?" she asked shakily. "The freak was cooking," he said, sending a glare at Harry, who at this point had his omelet on his plate and was considering if he wanted to add sauce. Petunia squeaked in terror and looked at Harry, who just raised an eyebrow, smirking, before taking a bite of his omelet. "Diddykins, I need you to come with me. We need to have a chat about how we treat Harry," Petunia said, practically dragging him from the room as he protested. With that over, Harry made his way upstairs and into Dudley's second bedroom. Looking around in disgust at the broken toys and rubbish cluttering the floor, Harry waved his hands and watched as it was banished. Next, he used a liberal amount of scouring and repairing charms on the walls, floors, and door. Looking at the furniture, Harry attempted a few simple transfigurations, not anything too fancy as, even with his power increase, he was still working without a wand and with his limited knowledge of transfiguration. Whilst he had been practically living in the Black Library, he hadn't studied up on it, focusing more on darker arts and soul magic in the hope of finding an answer to his problems. However, even with his limited knowledge, Harry was able to create a comfortable-looking bed, with matching side table, desk, and wardrobe as well as a desk chair. Happy with the sparsely furnished room, Harry turned to leave, adding a muggle-repelling ward to the doorway as an afterthought. Chapter 22: Defying Dumbledore's Schemes. Entering the living room, Harry noted how the Dursleys sat together and watched him warily. It would seem that Petunia had finally got around to warning Dudley. Making eye contact with Vernon and then Dudley, Harry set the jinx, happy when he felt his magic settle, letting him know it was in place. "I will be moving into Dudley's second bedroom," Harry stated, watching in fascination as both Dudley and Vernon recoiled as though struck. Dudley let out a horrified squawk, but before he could protest, Petunia nodded. "Yes, of course," she said quickly, sending both the male Dursleys a fearful look. Waiting, Harry was almost bouncing with excitement when he heard the mail come. Walking to the door, Harry easily saw the letter that was for him, the parchment standing out against the Muggle envelopes. Picking the letter up, Harry immediately felt the charms and compulsions on it try to take effect and smirked when his magic reacted and tore them apart. Taking the letter upstairs, Harry opened it after reading the address, gleefully ripping apart the purple wax seal bearing the school's coat of arms. Mr. H. Potter. The cupboard under the stairs. For Privet Drive. Little Whinging. Surrey. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore. Order of Merlin. First Class. Grand Source. CHF. Warlock. Supreme Mugwump. International Confide. Of Wizards. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Equipment list. First-year students will require uniform, 3 sets of plain work robes, black, 1 plain pointed hat, black, 1 pair of protective gloves, dragon hide or similar, 1 winter cloak, black, silver fastenings. Please note that all students' clothes should carry name tags at all times. Books. The Standard Book of Spells, Grade 1 by Miranda Goshawk. A History of Magic by Bathilda Bagshot. Magical Theory by Adalbert Waffling. A Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration by Emmerich Switch. 1000 Magical Herbs and Fungi by Phillida Spore. Magical Drafts and Potions by Arsenius Jigger. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander. The Dark Forces. A Guide to Self-Protection by Quentin Trimble. Other Equipment. 1 wand. 1 cauldron, pewter, standard size 2. 1 set of glass or crystal files. 1 telescope. 1 set of brass scales. Students may also bring an owl, cat, or toad. Parents are reminded that first years are not allowed their own broomsticks. Reading the list, Harry thought about Hedwig for a moment. He could buy her again in this life, he thought happily, pleading that his first friend would hopefully be with him again soon. Summoning a biro and some paper, Harry quickly penned his reply to McGonagall. It wouldn't do for him to use ink and a quill and gain any unwanted attention. Professor McGonagall, thank you for the letter. I accept my place at Hogwarts School as a first-year student. Gratefully, Harry J. Potter. With that done, Harry spent a moment and concentrated on his clothes, transfiguring his oversized t-shirt into a short-day robe in a dark blue color with pale green accents, and his jeans into a pair of gray trousers. Harry then focused on his shoes, looking in disgust at the barely held-together trainers, and transfigured them into shiny black ankle boots. Happy that his clothing would last until he managed to buy himself a proper wardrobe, Harry made his way down the stairs, glad to see the Dursleys going out of their way to ignore him. Even Vernon, who clenched his teeth and shook as he stared at Harry, but he still let him pass without challenge. Walking out of the door, Harry took a moment to observe the wards surrounding the property and felt his anger towards Dumbledore surge. There were no blood wards surrounding the house. The wards consisted of a simple protection ward, an anti-apparition ward, and an owl redirection ward. Luckily, the old man hadn't thought to place any magical detection wards, or Harry would have some explaining to do. I will make him pay, Harry vowed to himself. With a growl, Harry continued his journey and passed through the wards fully before spinning on his heel and apparating to just outside of the leaky cauldron. Entering the pub, Harry made sure to walk quickly and keep his scar covered. The wizarding world hadn't yet met him and didn't know what he looked like. Therefore he hoped that dressed in wizarding fashion, and without Dumbledore's blasted blood glamour, he would go undetected. Going up to the bar, Harry gained Tom's attention. "Excuse me, could you open the passage to Diagon Alley, please?" he asked. "Certainly, young sir," Tom said, nodding his thanks as the entryway opened. Harry slipped into the bustling crowd. He remembered only days ago reminiscing about the magic of Diagon Alley, but now he felt he had exaggerated it as he struggled to get through the crowd without knocking into people. Like before, the crowd parted easily for him subconsciously, but still, with the number of people milling about, the journey through wasn't without difficulty. Finally reaching the other end of the alley, Harry slipped into Gringotts, giving the guards a nod in greeting and happy to see he got one in return. After waiting in the small queue, Harry finally reached a free teller. Barely able to see up over the desk, Harry nodded in greeting and spoke. "Greetings, Master Goblin. I wish to inquire about the state of my family's estate and my inheritance." Nodding, the goblin stood. "Greetings, Mr. Potter. We at Gringotts welcome you on this day. If you would follow me, I will take you to Chief Ragnarok, who is personally overseeing your accounts." Chapter 23, The Heir of Potter and Black. Harry let out a breath in relief when he heard this and hoped that Ragnarok hadn't been wrong when he assured Harry he would remember. Taking the familiar route to Ragnarok's office, Harry greeted the guards and bid his escort goodbye before entering the office. Seeing Ragnarok behind his desk, Harry approached before stopping to glare at the chair he usually sat in. Although he could get into it, it wouldn't be easy as his 11-year-old body was disturbingly small. Ragnarok, who was watching, chuckled at seeing his friend, although he hadn't met him yet officially, struggle with the limitations of his new body. Harry, giving up on trying to sit down, simply focused his magic on the chair, using a slight shrinking charm. Harry watched happily as the chair reduced enough in size that he would be comfortable yet still able to see over the desk. Once he was settled, he looked up to see Ragnarok smirking at him. "It is good to see you again, my friend," the goblin said. "Although this is our first time meeting for me." Harry let out a breath. "I am glad to see you again as well," he said. "I take it you are here to withdraw money from your vaults?" Ragnarok asked. "Please," Harry said before he added, "would it also be possible to make it so that only I can take money from my accounts? Sadly, you cannot ban Dumbledore from your vaults as he is your magical guardian. However, you can make it so that only he can access your vaults and only in person," Ragnarok said. "Please do. And could you possibly recall all of my vault keys?" Harry asked, remembering that Hagrid had one in his last life. "Recalling your keys is easy. Just say your full name and that you wish to recall your keys belonging to your name and they will appear," Ragnarok instructed. "I, Harrison James Potter Black, recall any and all vault keys belonging to my name." Within seconds several keys appeared, shocking Harry. "What do I do with them now?" Harry asked. "They will be disposed of for you if you wish," Ragnarok said. At Harry's nod he proceeded, flicking his wrist so the keys were banished. "Without a key, nobody else apart from Dumbledore can gain access to my vaults, right?" Harry checked. "Correct. Even with a written statement from Dumbledore, they would be unable to get in," Ragnarok confirmed. "Can you make it so no new keys are given out? Perhaps lie to Dumbledore, saying that it's a new policy or something. Maybe say that they can only be given out with the family or heir's permission," Harry asked. Ragnarok considered the request before giving a sharp nod. "It can be done," he said. "Thank you," Harry said before he frowned. "I need to get into my trust vault, but I was wondering if there was anything other than a key that I could use," Harry said. "Wearing the heir ring of your house will grant you access to your vault. As like a lordship ring, an heir ring can only be worn by the rightful heir. It cannot be fooled by potions or glamours," Ragnarok said. "I see. Do I have heir rings?" Harry asked as he had not had one last time, or at least he didn't know about them. "You do, however you only have 2 heir rings, although you are still the heir of 4 houses. Heir rings are a newer trend, coming about around 150 years ago. Therefore only the Potter and Black families had heir rings made," Ragnarok explained, Harry nodded his understanding and picked up the 2 boxes Ragnarok produced. Putting on the air rings, Harry felt the same tug he experienced when he claimed his lordships in his past life. These rings have the same protections as their lordship counterparts and can work as a payment seal when making purchases. However, as there is no black air vault set up for you, only the Potter seal will work for payment. Just think of that when placing the ring and it will show up, Ragnarok continued to say. Thank you, Harry said after his magic had settled. Being able to use his ring to buy things would make it easier for him to make large purchases. It is no problem, Ragnarok dismissed. If that is everything, I will have somebody take you down to your trust vault. It is, Harry said, saying goodbye as he exited the office. Greeting his new escort, Harry asked about getting a money pouch attached to his trust vault, much like he had seen many purebloods using in his last life. After haggling the price down, Harry agreed with the goblin and accepted the pouch. This way he wouldn't need to take copious amounts of money out to buy everything he needed, and the pouches were magical signature locked, so there was no worry about his money even if it was stolen. Chapter 24, Unveiling the Truth. Entering his vault, Harry was greeted by the sight of piles of gold. He remembered being overwhelmed by the picture the first time around when he came in with Hagrid and snorted, thinking about how he would have reacted to the sight of the Black family vaults. Grabbing a couple of coins just to keep on him, Harry was in and out of his vault quickly, as he no longer needed to spend time counting out money now he had his pouch. Greeting the goblin who was waiting back at the cart, Harry soon left the bank. Shopping quickly and trying to be efficient about collecting his first-year supplies from the various stores, Harry aimed to keep a low profile. The only time he deviated from the equipment list was when he was in an apothecary. He collected his own ingredients instead of buying the ready-made-up first-year kit in order to have higher-quality ingredients. He also added a few extra in case he found himself needing to brew anything. Harry also diverted from his list when in Flourish and Blots, as he bought books on everything that fascinated him as well as his required texts. When looking at the books, Harry was reminded of the Black family library and cursed his own stupidity. Buying the books quickly, Harry practically ran back to Gringotts. When he re-entered the bank, Harry did not go to a teller. Instead, he nodded greetings as he passed and made his way straight to Ragnarok's office. Harry barely even waited to be called in when he bounded through the doors. Sirius Black! He practically shouted to the startled goblin chief. Ragnarok blinked at the state Harry was in and wondered what Sirius Black had to do with anything. Mass murderer, placed in Azkaban prison on November 4, 1981 for the murder of 12 muggles and 1 wizard, Peter Pettigrew, reported Death Eater and betrayer of the Potter family. Ragnarok recited. No, he's innocent and he's my godfather, Harry said. Innocent? Ragnarok questioned. You're sure? Yes. In my 3rd year it was confirmed. Pettigrew is alive. He's an animagus living with the Weasleys. He was Ron's pet rat while we were at Hogwarts. He's the real traitor. I see, Ragnarok said. What do you wish to do with this information? I want him freed, Harry said. He never had a trial, he was just locked away. If he is freed, I gain a new magical guardian, which solves my Dumbledore problem, and I will have access to the Black family library again. Ragnarok frowned. No trial? That's unheard of, especially as he was the heir of an ancient and noble house. Ragnarok muttered, more to himself than Harry. Can it be done? Harry asked. I can make inquiries, Ragnarok said. However, it will be a slow process. This screams of a cover-up, and the ministry will want this to remain buried. It would not look go on them to have locked up a noble heir without a trial for almost 10 years. Harry smiled in relief and asked, would it help for me to acquire Pettigrew? Yes, but not immediately, Ragnarok said. If, like you say, Pettigrew was at Hogwarts, then it's not unreasonable to believe Dumbledore knows. If he is to just disappear before we have sorted out a trial, Dumbledore may grow suspicious. Harry frowned but nodded, pleased that Ragnarok would start to work on getting Sirius a trial. I will make a contract for you with a reliable law wizard, Ragnarok said. That way, once the gears are moving, we can use them as an intermediary, thus keeping the nature of our relationship hidden from the world. Brilliant, Harry said, awed by the goblin's cunning. Ragnarok smiled toothily. Now, if that is all, it would seem I suddenly have a lot of work to do. With that dismissal, Harry once again left the bank, making sure to say goodbye to the guards as he had rushed past them when he had entered. Returning to his school shopping, Harry realized it was almost dusk and the shops were either closing or closed. With that in mind, Harry decided to get a room for the night at the Leaky Cauldron instead of returning to Surrey, as he was still in need of his uniform and wand. Entering the pub, Harry once again gained Tom's attention, asking for a single room for the night and paying. Harry was happy to hand over the small cost as it included both dinner and breakfast, and he was starving. He was determined to try and reverse some of the damage done to his body because of his relatives' care. Going up to his room, Harry looked around and added a few extra wards before removing the few bits he had brought from his robe. Returning downstairs, Harry ordered the shepherd's pie as well as a pot of tea and tucked in. Leaving a small tip when he was finished, Harry thanked Tom and returned to his room, trying to think of everything that happened in his last life and how he could change it for the better. Chapter 25: Wands and Discontent. It only took a moment for Harry to recall exactly what else had happened the day he had gone to Diagon Alley, and he cursed his stupidity. The stone. Thinking back, however, Harry's thoughts soon turned to suspicion. Why was it that Hagrid was sent for the stone on the day he had to pick up Harry? Surely the better option for Dumbledore would have been to send somebody who could actually do magic, if not pick it up himself. Thinking on the situation, Harry cursed his own stupidity and had to hand it to Dumbledore. He had well and truly played Harry. The entire situation was a setup. He was testing Harry, and Harry had fallen for it every single time. Laughing in spite of himself, Harry wondered how Dumbledore would try to get Harry after the stone this time. Barely able to stay awake, Harry wondered why he was so tired, but figured time travel probably left one sleepy, and quickly stripped from his clothes and slipped into the bed. The next day Harry looked at his transfigured clothes. They were still usable but looked rather lackluster. That was the problem with transfiguring clothing when you were not a professional. The charms faded quickly. Sighing, Harry transfigured them again, and vowed his first order of business after getting a wand would be clothes. After a breakfast of pancakes and bacon, Harry quietly joined the crowds of Diagon Alley, making his way straight to Ollivander's. Unlike in his first life, the shop was not empty, and much to Harry's chagrin the person was none other than an 11-year-old Hermione Granger. Narrowing his eyes in distaste, Harry barely stopped himself from cursing her just to get it over with. This was the first time he had seen somebody on his hit list, and he was not feeling magnanimous. He was surprised to see that she didn't have a school escort but was with her parents, who were standing looking shell-shocked in the corner. Hearing the bell chime over the door as he stepped through, she had turned to look at him, her brown eyes narrowing as she ran her eyes over him, looking at his casual wizarding clothing with distaste. Just then Ollivander spoke. "Ah, Mr. P-." Harry quickly cut the peculiar man off before he could say Harry's last name. "Please, sir, call me Harrison." "That's rude, you know," said Hermione in a matter-of-fact tone that had Harry clenching his fist to stop himself from lashing out. "You shouldn't interrupt people when they're talking." Harry just looked at her with distaste. "Indeed," he said, unconsciously mimicking Lucius Malfoy. "If you're done, miss." He let himself trail off. Hermione seemed to puff up at his tone with indignation. "Yes, actually, I am finished," she said contemptuously. "And my name is Hermione Granger," she added. Harry hummed. Granger. I've never heard of that family before. He really didn't have a problem with Muggleborns, not at all, but he hated how Hermione treated the wizarding world. She thought their customs were outdated and scorned their culture just because it was different from the Muggle world. She didn't try to understand them. She just ignored them and complained. "That's because I'm the first witch in my family," Hermione replied, looking at Harry challengingly. Making sure to put as much distaste behind his words as possible, Harry said, "I see." Turning then, as though to dismiss her, Harry only had to wait a second before she exploded in self-righteous indignation. "What? You think you're better than me because you have a magical family?" she demanded. Harry hummed again. "No, I never said that. That belief is all yours, Miss Granger." Just as Harry was sure she was about to explode, her parents seemed to pull themselves out of their fearful state and noticed she was done. "Oh, come on, Hermione, we've got to get going," Mrs. Granger said, practically making a run for the door. Watching them leave, Harry let a small smirk form on his face when he saw Hermione struggle and glare at him. "Well, that was interesting," said Ollivander's voice, drawing Harry's attention to the man who had been silently watching his interaction with Hermione. Harry shrugged. "I really don't have a problem with Muggleborns," Harry said. "I just hate people like her who come into this world and try to change it into a replica of the Muggle one." Ollivander hummed again and nodded. "Well then, let's see what the wands make of you, Harrison." Stepping forward, Harry watched as Ollivander seemed to lose focus before looking at Harry intently. "Your wand arm, if you please," he instructed. Handing out his right arm, Harry considered just telling him what wand was his but decided to go with the process. Maybe his wand would have changed. Eventually, Harry decided that his wand hadn't changed as, like last time, after testing dozens of wands, Ollivander finally produced a familiar dusty old box. Picking up his holly wand, Harry felt his magic sing. Although he was now more than capable of wandless magic, the feeling of unity between a wand and its wizard was something special.